So far, we've been able to learn a lot about how Microsoft Access works. We've been able to see how we could work with the tables. Been able to see how we could put them together and how we can work with relationships. Now, let me remind you that the idea of relationships is one that is very, very essential to your having a good workflow, particularly when you're using Microsoft Access. And so, in case you've not really had a grasp of how it works, you might want to look over the relationships video once again to get the general idea of how the relationships work. In this particular video, we're going to focus on a different access object, and that is going to be queries. Now, what is a query? Well, I'd like to say that a query is derived from the idea of a question. Yeah, a question. And what then is a question? Now, say for instance, you have a database that is probably containing information about employee details, their names, their addresses, and all of those long and large informations that you already see displayed in your table. Now, say for instance, an employer comes over to you and asks, "Hey, Joe, I need some information about so client, but I don't need the entire information. I need the information in brief. Maybe the database now has say the name, the address, the age, the sex, the department the person works with, and all of that. And your employer says, I just want to know the name of my employers or my employees, as the case may be, and I just simply want to know which department they work with. I don't need the extra details. Do you pick out the question? Okay, so the employer says, okay, let's put it this way. All right, so it's the scenario. I think that should be what I should put there. So we have a scenario. I didn't spell that right. Okay, we have a scenario, and the scenario is this: your boss needs a specific information, and he says, I need the employee details, okay, abbreviated abbreviated such that the name and department of the employee is displayed. Aha, that's it. I think I got the spelling of abbreviated wrong, my bad. Okay, now I need the employee details abbreviated such that the name and department of the employee is displayed. Now, this is a question, and this is what a query should do. So, the answer to that question is this: we need a query. That is it. Now, what then is a query? In the most basic form, I would look at a query as an abbreviated form of a database designed in such a way that it answers or solves a particular need. Are we getting the picture? And so typically what we're trying to say in essence is that your query looks very much like a table, but it's not a table. Yeah, it is not a table. It is actually created out of a table. Okay, so let's put that there. So we're saying queries are created, okay, from tables. That's the point. They are created from tables. That means you do not have a table, you cannot have a query. That also helps you understand why every database every database you create would always begin with a table. Right, enough of the chatter. Let's go over to the last scenario we looked at when working with relationships and see what we're talking about when we're talking about queries. Now, I'm going to open up these two tables and we're going to figure out something. Now, let's say we have two tables here. Don't mind the fact that it is still related. Okay, okay, let me clear out the relationship. So in case you're thinking about how we want to clear the relationship, this is what you would do. I'm going to close these tables that are opened, go over to my database tools and then go over to relationships. Okay, at which point this is what I'll do. I would first delete the relationship by right clicking on the related line. That's the first thing I would do, and click on delete. Okay, it's going to ask me if I really want to delete. Yeah, I'll do. Am I sure I want to permanently delete the selected relationship? My answer is yes, so I'm going to click on yes. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is to clear the layout. Okay, and he's asking, do you want to do that? Yes, I want to do that. And then I can close. Do I want to save it? Yes, I want to save it. And opening my table reveals no relationship on both ends. Okay, I just felt I should just drop that, by the way. So in case you might be wondering what how you could do that, that's your answer there. So now keep that in mind. Now back to what we're saying. Now I just mentioned that relationships, don't mind me, I just mentioned that queries are created from tables. So we're looking at this particular table, we're saying, okay, this is supposed to be a student's records table. Okay, it includes the registration number, it has the name of the student, it has the age of student, it has sex, it has the subjects. Okay, now let us assume that we just need something. We just need the name of the students and the grade of the student. Let's say the principal needs something like that, and that is just the information we want to get. We don't want to get every other information. Now that is where your query comes in handy. So your query needs to do something. We just need a different table now that is going to display two things, two fields: name of student, grade of student. Nothing more. We don't need any other thing. That is just it. That's the idea of queries, and it's quite simple. You'll be swept away by just what we're going to do. Alright, now in creating a query, are we listening? In creating a query, we start with the create tab or the create ribbon. That's what we're going to click on. Okay, and what we're looking for in this ribbon is the queries group. Can you notice? Can you identify queries group? Yes, I can see mine over here. In 2007, I'm sure it's somewhere there as well. So once you click on the create tab, you're looking for query design. Now on seeing query design, I'm going to click on it. Okay, and something similar to what we had in relationships pops up here. The show table, right? Fine. Now we're just trying to point out something, and we're just trying to pick out the table we want to base our query on. Remember, queries are based on tables. Of course, like you can see in the table, you can actually base your queries upon other queries. We're going to see how that works out much later, but right now just pay attention. Now I'm going to click on the student's record because that's the table that's here. I can't pick this out right now because this show table dialog box is already opened. Okay, now on clicking on show student records, I'm going to click on add. That is the table I want to base on, and we said that we needed two items: name of student and what, and total. Let's drag these out to have more room. That is what we want to get. We just want to get a new table, in this case the query, to have the name of student and the total. So what do we do here? First thing first, we're going to select a field. Okay, and the field we're looking for is the name of student. And of course you see that automatically it helps you enter the table that name of student is based on. Okay, so that means that if probably we had more than one table and we clicked on this drop down arrow here, we would see all the contents of that table. Okay, I'm going to do that much later so that you don't get confused. All right, now because we are looking at just two fields, notice that I would have to go to the next column. Take note of that. I'll have to go to the next column to select the field. So in this case, I'm trying to look out for the total field, which is going to be down there. Okay, and of course it is still based on the student's records. Now by default, the show checkbox is always turned on whenever you select a particular field. That means that if you uncheck any of these, the field is not going to be displayed. So let's leave it as it is, and I think pretty much that's what we do. So let's now click on run to see if our table or our query has actually been created. Now see what the run does. It performs the action specified in the query. So let's run and see. Voila, we're seeing that. Now we're seeing name of student and total. Now as opposed to what we have under the students records. Under the students records, we have a whole larger list. So under your queries, you have a very, very abbreviated, concise list of information. That is what a query does. So if probably now we wanted to include the registration number, what would you need to do? Any ideas? All right, guys. What would you need to do? Let's think. Let's think. All right, now we will just need to go over to the design view. Okay, that is what we'll need to go over to. We'll go over to the design view, because that is where you would be able to go back to how you set up your query. The same thing applies to your tables. Always remember, whenever you are trying to make any kind of adjustment to your table, your query, your form, your reports, as the case may be, you would always need to go back to the design view. Okay, there's no special magic anywhere. All right, so I'm going back to my design view. We're there. Okay, if I'm clicking on that same button, which is my data sheet view, I am back to my queries. Okay, I could still click on the view button, and I can still flip back and forth. So on my design view, I'm there. So if we wanted to then add the what was the guy there, the ID field, the registration number field, yes, that's what's there. I would need to come here and just make some slight change. So I'll just come over here and change this to registration number. All right, that will be the first thing there. Of course, it is still inside the student's records. I would come over here and change this to name of student, and then I would come over here to change this to total. Okay, so on clicking upon run, I have those three information spread out nicely, and just like that, you've created a query. Okay, not completely until it is saved. Now notice that to your left at the navigation pane, your query has not been displayed. Notice the icons for your query. You notice that it looks like two slight smaller tables, and your table is just basically one. So we will need to see that query created here. So to make that work, we'll need to save our query. We just ran a test. That's what your run does. Okay, so after running your test, you need to give your query a name. So let us call this guy abbreviated. I'm sure I didn't spell that well. I am very, very sure I didn't. Abbreviated students record. Yeah, I think that works. Students record. Yeah, I like the sound. All right, so abbreviated students record. So let's okay that, and voila, your query is created as a different object inside of your database. So that means that if I were to close this database now and open it up, let's close it down there. Okay, and let's open him over there again. That's the last database we worked on. Aha, we have our two tables and one query. So I could open my query. My employer would say, okay, that's a nice job. I can see that I have an abbreviated information, instead of looking at this and running our eyes through to see if we are correct or not. That is how you create queries. It is that simple. So just remember that you're just going to the create tab to the query group. Okay, you're going to create tab to your query group, and you're selecting query design, where you are going to select the specific table that you want to base your query on. Of course, you could select more than one table, as the case may be. It all depends on the specific kind of information, and you must always make sure that those information that you're trying to connect make sense. The moment they do not make sense, you might get an issue. And once you've done that, you would have to save your query before your query becomes active. Okay, so I would say that's basically what queries are about. I hope that was very, very simple enough, like I promised, and I'm glad you just listened to that particular slide. That's where Access actually becomes much interesting, because when I get to this point, I feel I'm almost through. We're almost home and dry. So once again, I'd like to thank you for viewing this video, and I'll see you guys in a moment.